You can count on Platinum Games, right? Yeah, of course you can. These guys made Bayonetta, The Wonderful 101. They've worked on Transformers Devastation, Legend of Korra. They've done loads of things, and most of the things have been pretty great. And the idea of a Turtles Platinum game should have been amazing. It should be the greatest thing ever. And it's not. It's not bad, but it's not great. For instance, there's no local multiplayer, which to me is a bit unforgivable, considering that you had the classics like Turtles in Time, and you had the original NES arcade game, and the actual arcade game as well. They were all local multiplayer games. Why is it absent here? That just seems like a no-brainer. You can play online, of course, if you can find a game, but other than that, no, it's just not available to you. You can switch between your Turtles, so you can kind of play it in a single multi... It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And there's also issues as well with the frame rate can be a little bit hit and miss. This is less combo focused than ever from Platinum, which is a real surprise because, as you know, that's what they love to do, as Bayonetta has proven time and time again. And also that it just feels a little bit flat. The boss battles, they do vary things up a little bit, and they're probably the most interesting part of the game. But the mission structure is quite bland, in the sense that the missions you go through, you've got several hubs within them. So in this case, you have to defeat a series of enemies, and you have to defeat them within a certain time limit, and you gain a mission rank for doing that. But on other occasions, you have to collect loads of bank loot and then take it to an objective-based location so that you're preventing a crime from being prevented, or you have to stop a renegade bus from roaming the streets. There's all kinds of different things to do, and there's all kinds of ways of mixing it up and making it fresh. And it's all randomized, but it just kind of, once you've done it once, you feel like you've done it several times over, even though the landscape is different and it looks slightly different from before, and it just doesn't quite work. And it's really odd from Platinum because it's not what we're used to seeing from them. And as I say, this is not up there with Turtles in Time, which is arguably the greatest Turtles game that's been made, but this is better perhaps than some of the other adaptations that we've seen in recent years that have come based on the cartoons. So to kind of, if you look at the art style, it's kind of reminiscent of the 1989 movies, which, had Elias Koteas before he was involved in Chicago PD. And then you had all the original sort of guys dressed up in turtle costumes just wandering around the scene. Not so much the newer movies, which have kind of got more of a CG focus, and not so much on the newer cartoons, which are a little bit more friendlier, perhaps. But at the same time, this does sort of capture the original Eastman and Laird humour, and there are sort of winks and nods to what you're already seeing on Nickelodeon and the new Turtles cartoons, and sort of to the newer movies as well. But yeah, I think this has been created and designed more for the original Turtles fans who grew up loving it back in the 80s, rather than sort of the newer audiences, which you've kind of seen a more flashy, more fresher kind of style of look, and I don't know, sort of a more vibrant colour palette perhaps. But, I mean, Platinum are no strangers to working with licenses, as we've already established. They worked with Transformers Devastation, which was quite solid, and they worked with Legend of Korra, which again was pretty decent. But for some reason, even though this seems like a dream collaboration, it's just missing a beat. And there's a story that's underlying and underpinning it all, in the sense that you've still got a lot of regular cutscenes, as you kind of saw at the beginning here, and you've got a lot of interactions between Splinter and April, and you meet other cast and characters. You have your little cutscenes with Shredder and Krang, so you're all seeing all of that kind of thing here, and there is something underpinning it all. But it's just like the mission structure is just not as captivating as you've seen in other Platinum games. Like, they just seem to have... It's almost as if that this is a subsidiary of Platinum and are making this, not actually the core team who've worked on so many other classic games. So it's a little unusual. But as I say, fortunately, the boss battles do sort of kind of make up for things a little bit. You're just about to see here now, I'm about to fight Bebop. And Bebop, as you can see here again, he's very reminiscent of the original sort of Turtles cartoons, but also kind of similar again to the sort of what you've seen in the newer cartoons. And the style, the way that the lines he comes out with, the voice acting, it reminds you a lot of what you've seen in previous Turtle games. So to give you a bit of an idea of what you actually do with all this, you're seeing on the screen at the moment you've got various sort of attacks you can use. And I said there's less of an emphasis on combos, and that's definitely true. What you can do instead, you can switch out your Turtles at any point during the game. So you can actually then also command them using the DS4's touchpad. You can sort of command your Turtles to kind of split up and attack people on their own, or you can sort of bring them together and you can all fight as one unit. You can have them protect you. You can do all kinds of different things in that way. So you're kind of leading your army of turtles to do... You're basically acting as the leader, whether or not you decide to go as Donatello, Raphael, Michelangelo or Leonardo. But it's down to you. You're making the decisions for the entire group. You can also, as you've seen there with the different types of attacks that I've got there, you can actually customize your loadouts in an option screen menu. So like you earn battle points from however you perform in actions, whether or not you've kind of got an S rank for each mission. You get more battle points for depending on what rank you get and how many, how you compare in battle. But you can actually use those battle points then to spend on different sort of moves and attacks, and also it could be defensive attacks, it could be offensive attacks, it could be some kind of buff attacks which you can use to kind of increase morale and boost the attack ability of your fellow turtle. And it all just kind of works well in that sense. The loadouts are quite an interesting way of mixing things up, and rather than just have the typical hack and slash and tap the buttons as you go through the game, it does keep things and make them feel a little bit different. But it still doesn't quite take away from how limited things do tend to feel and how repetitive things get after about the first level and a half. As I've alluded to before, there is no local multiplayer. You can go online with this. The online component does work fairly well, but it does take a while to get into a game, so please bear that in mind. And also the frame rate can be a little bit hiccupy on PS4, which I've noticed, and you perhaps haven't seen it as much in this, but it does happen, especially when you've got a lot of foot soldiers on the screen at the same time as you. So the other things as well to remember as well is that you can grind on rails in the game, so it kind of gives you like that kind of Tony Hawk's kind of style, and you can jump between rooftops. When you're jumping off rooftops, you can turn your shell into a parachute, so you can kind of sail down towards enemies. You've also kind of got like a heat-seeking type of sensor, which allows you to see your enemies when they haven't noticed you and you're kind of indicated in yellow. So that means then you can sneak up them and take them down in kind of like into stealth mode. Or you can just decide to just fly in when you see a group of them at one time and just go pedal to the metal and just destroy anything in sight. Multi-hit combos are in there as well. You got the completion of the mission ranks and the bonuses awarded to particular players depending on what they did in the battle. And each turtle has 4 special attacks which they can use. Some of them are actually specific to a turtle, but as I say, each of them can be customized and changed out in a loadout, so that's worth bearing in mind. All the particular enemies that you've come to expect from Turtles are in here. You've got Bebop, Rocksteady, Shredder, Krang, Slash. There's others as well. I don't want to spoil every single boss in there. But the boss battles are quite interesting and they're quite tough. As you can see here, I'm taking a bit of a pelting from Bebop, but I'm also giving as good as I'm getting. And your turtles can be knocked out in battle. So what you need to bear in mind is when you've got the 4 of them fighting at once, but one has been knocked down, you get sent back to the sewer and you have to kind of quickly try and get back into the battle by eating pizza, which sounds a little bit crazy, but obviously the slower you eat that, and you've still got another guy fighting out there, which you don't actually get to see, which is a bit odd. But you're eating this pizza and just hoping that by the time you've eaten the pizza you can get back into the battle and your fellow turtle hasn't been defeated, but you wouldn't be able to tell anyway because you don't see any of that. The screen will just suddenly go black if your turtle has been defeated. The AR decides one way or the other, and it's then game over. So it's pretty unusual. There's some unusual design choices in this, which I'm yet to sort of really fully grasp as to why they've done that. I guess it made sense during development, but it doesn't really come across that well in the game. So as I said before, this is released on pretty much any format going. You can get it on PC, PS3 and 4, Xbox 360 and Xbox One. It came out last month, so it's been out for a little while, and there's kind of a cel-shaded art style which kind of really captures things, but in the more mature kind of way that's really authentic to the comics and sort of the original movies. It's just a little strange. I mean, obviously Platinum Games have worked on things before. This does, to some extent, it does feel like a Platinum Games title. There are real nods to things that they've done before, but it's never the sum of the greatness. It's just, to me, this feels like it's one project too many for Platinum, who've been spreading themselves extremely thin the last few years with different projects, and it seems like one minute they've announced something, they were also working on 3 other things at the same time, and this perhaps felt like a stretch too far. It's not realised its full potential, which is a huge shame, because there's a lot in this that to me is it captures things that other Turtles games in the last sort of 5 to 10 years just haven't really been able to grasp. And it does almost get to the heights of the original great ones, but there's just something that's not quite right about this, and unfortunately it has suffered as a result. But having said that, I mean, there are some things to enjoy here. It's a shame it's not local, but yes, you might like it.